native to rural Hagerstown, Indiana, Ralph Teeter is most well known for inventing cruise control, the predecessor to modern-day self-automation technology. Teeter was at the forefront of automotive history. He patented many inventions, led a company that became a prime defense contractor during World War II, and worked alongside figures such as Henry Ford, Plessy Cummins, and the Duesenberg brothers. Additionally, Teeter made groundbreaking improvements to the mechanics of United States Navy warships and Indy 500 racing cars. However, what makes all of Teeter's accomplishments so astounding is that he was blind. During an era when disabilities were misunderstood and looked down upon, Teeter lived as if he was not handicapped. Ralph Teeter's success story entails overcoming obstacles, surpassing societal limitations, and breaking barriers as a blind man living in Indiana during the early 1900s. In an interview with Teeter, a colleague asked how much more might have been accomplished had he been able to see. Teeter responded, "I probably couldn't have done as much. I can concentrate and you can't." Teeter's grandson further elaborates.
He said that the blindness actually played to a strength in that he could concentrate better than others because he wasn't distracted by what his eyes saw. And your vision gives you discrimination between beauty and non-beauty, and oftentimes that is deceptive in itself.
On August 17, 1890, Ralph R. Teeter was born to Kate and John Teeter in Hagerstown, Indiana. With a population of around 1,000, the extended Teeter family was well established, running a few local bicycle shops. As Ralph grew up, he began to tinker in the bicycle shop with his uncles and father. Tragically, at age 6, in March of 1896, Ralph accidentally cut his eye in the shop. Over the course of the next year, Ralph developed sympathetic ophthalmia, an eye condition in which the healthy eye sympathizes the injured eye, and he was left completely blind in both. The Indiana School for the Blind had opened in Indianapolis in 1847, yet Kate and John were followers of Christian Science and firmly believed that they would raise young Ralph with no special treatment. By age 12, Ralph grew his passion for engineering and had created his own version of an automobile before Henry Ford had even begun producing them. Ralph Teeter's childhood and family values play a crucial role in the mindset he had for the rest of his life, for his small, close-knit town allowed him as a blind boy to prosper and not be shamed, a unique situation for the time period. Into the late 20th century, Americans with disabilities were segregated from society and denied their constitutional rights. In Indiana especially, citizens with disabilities were often treated like charity cases, tragedies, or freaks. Most disabled people were unable to financially support themselves, leaving many homeless as beggars. Around the same time of Ralph's accident in 1907, Indiana was the first among 24 other states to enact the eugenics sterilization law, a law to justify forcibly leaving confirmed idiots, imbeciles, and rapists unable to reproduce. This law was passed in efforts to purify the American population of disabilities because such people were deemed unfit. The eugenics sterilization law serves as one example of society's view on handicapped people, such as the blind, and how they were perceived as inferior. Moreover, no education system for the blind had been put in place either. Ralph Teeter never had educational assistance, for Braille would not be implemented until 1960. Until key legislation such as the Brown v. Board of Education and the 1973 Rehabilitation Act, the blind community was treated lowly by the American people. Ralph routinely broke barriers as he graduated high school and grew into a young man. Bill Hammack, a chemical engineering professor, notes how Teeter decided to become an engineer in an era when many colleges refused to even consider his application. Ralph's cousin, Neva Deerdorf, went to the University of Pennsylvania, where she personally convinced the dean of the engineering school to allow Ralph to attend. Ralph Teeter became the first blind student to graduate the University of Pennsylvania and the first blind engineer on record in the United States. Following graduation in 1912, World War I was on the horizon, and unable to be drafted in the war effort, Ralph traveled to Camden Shipyard in New Jersey. He devised a breakthrough process for dynamically balancing steam turbines on U.S. Navy warships, allowing boats to travel at a higher speed than ever before. During this time back in Hagerstown, the Teeters transitioned their bicycle shops into a piston ring manufacturing company named the Indiana Piston Ring Company. Ultimately patented by Ralph Teeter, the device seals the combustion chamber so that there is minimal loss of gas to the crankcase and maintains the proper quantity of oil between the piston and cylinder wall. After returning from New Jersey, Ralph married Nellie von Antwerpy in 1921 and had a daughter, Marjorie. Ralph was a family man, treasuring moments in spending summers at Lake Wawasee in northern Indiana. Footage provided by the Teeter family captures Ralph getting himself out of a boat, one of the only captured moments demonstrating how he did not let his blindness limit him, but how he lived life independently. Teeter's friend, Catfish, builds off this scene and shares how
I called him Ralph and Nellie. Seeing him walking up the street, I never seen him with a cane. Never did. I don't know whether he ever had one or not. They'd walk up the street and you wouldn't know that he was blind because he'd step off the curb and up the next one.
Teeter's most famous invention, cruise control, was inspired from one day in 1935 while riding with his lawyer. The lawyer would slow down while talking and speed up while listening. This rocking motion nauseated Teeter, so much so that he was determined to invent a speed control device. In 1945, after 10 years of tinkering, Ralph Teeter received his first patent on his speed control device. Speedostat became the trademark name, but is known today as cruise control. Only a year later, in 1946, Ralph Teeter became the president of the Indiana Piston Ring Company, renamed Perfect Circle. He oversaw nearly 3,000 employees in Hagerstown, and under his leadership, not a single one was laid off during the Great Depression. Perfect Circle was wildly successful, with piston rings becoming an essential feature of Indy 500 racing cars and making the company a prime defense contractor during World War II. For the next 15 years, Ralph Teeter continued to patent inventions and technologies that furthered automotive progress. Chrysler and General Motors were early adopters of his devices, and over time, cruise control became ubiquitous for vehicles as they are today. Although Ralph Teeter passed away in 1982, his legacy lives on today. Teeter was inducted into the Automotive Hall of Fame, was president of the Society of Automotive Engineers, and served on the board in various organizations. He has his own award, the Ralph R. Teeter Educational Award, which honors educators who are preparing young engineers for their careers. Today, automotive companies such as Uber, General Motors, Honda, Chrysler, Toyota, and many others recognize Ralph Teeter to be a founding father in pursuit of autonomous driving. Most importantly, in a time when the blind and disabled were severely misunderstood and mistreated in American culture, Ralph Teeter broke societal standards as he exemplified for all those to come after him that regardless of what circumstances one is born into, success is possible. He paved the path for blind students across the United States, proving his doubters wrong. At the end of our interview, I asked Ralph Teeter's grandson if he believed that his grandfather broke barriers. He responded,
Oh, certainly. Even barriers that you don't think can be broken. Where there's a will, there's a way.